Hey guys, here's a quick little video on a question that we've been asked quite a few times, and that is, how long do I need to wait after I've coated a screen with emulsion before I can expose it on the exposure unit? Let's find the answers. So some of the variables you have when coating your screens, you have the screens themselves, you have the emulsion that you're using, the scoop coater and which edge you're using when you put the emulsion on, and the application of putting it on, the physical force that goes into when you're coating that screen with the scoop coater. All of those factors will go into the amount of time it takes to dry. So it's not a straightforward question where I can say your screens will take 2 hours to dry. It really depends. So when we look at the screens, you have to be wary of what's the screen mesh that you're using. Are you using a lower screen mesh which holds more emulsion, or are you using a higher screen mesh which just naturally won't accept as much emulsion on it? Is your grip as you're coating the screen firmer, or is it easier grip? The side of the scoop coater, there's two sides on the scoop coater, that one rounded and one's the sharper edge. If you use the sharper edge, you're going to put a lighter coat of emulsion down. So they are all factors that go into allowing for it to dry, or the dry time. Another thing to remember is, or to think about is, where are you from? Where are you located at? Are you in a high humidity area, or are you in a low humidity area? Or are you in Philadelphia where the humidity is high? We're down by the shore, so the humidity is high. Or are you in Phoenix, Arizona, where the humidity is very low? In the lower humidities, you're going to have your screens dry at a much faster rate than what I do, because of all the humidity we have to deal with. And it also goes into how, not only how you're doing it, but where you're doing it. What is the room that you're doing it in? Is it a controlled room? Is it a drying rack? If you have a drying rack and you have 17 screens, so your rack holds 20 screens, you have 17 of them in there, well, that's going to take longer to dry than if you had 4 screens in the drying rack. Or you just if you're in a garage and you just have a little area off to the side where you let screens dry, it's going to take longer there than if you had a room that has controlled heat and controlled humidity. We were fortunate enough that we had a dedicated room where we have our screens and it's controlled humidity. We have a dehumidifier in there, and it's also temperature controlled. So that allows our screens to dry at a fairly fast rate. The way that we do it here is that we'll coat our screens at night. By the next morning, they're good and dry and ready to go. Probably the best thing that you can remember is that you don't ever want to rush this process. There's nothing worse than having your screens not fully dry. And they can break down either when you're washing it out after you've gone to the exposure unit and exposed it. You go to wash it out and the edges start blowing out, which isn't as bad as if you're already printing. You're printing and you're doing your shirts, and all of a sudden you're seeing that the edges are starting to fall apart. So now you've got to stop everything, clean, recoat the screens, just go through the whole process again, and you're wasting time, and time is money. So there's things that you can do to avoid it. If you're in a pinch, I know some people, they like to use fans to help dry it, which is fine. Just make sure that if you're using a fan, that room is dust and dirt free, because you don't want all that dust and particles getting up onto your freshly coated screen. Otherwise it'll be no good either. That's sort of it in a nutshell. The best thing to do is that you cannot let your screens dry long enough. Longer is always better. If you need to get something done right away and you have to use fans and things of that nature to help the process along, you do so, but just again, make sure that you're in a clean environment so that it's not messing up your screen with dust and dirt particles that are getting into the emulsion. That's about it for today. That was just a real quick little video. Hopefully it'll be very helpful to you, especially if you're starting out and you're just trying to figure these things out. So thanks for coming by. We really appreciate it. We hope that you subscribe, ring the bell, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.